A Penn State study digs into the complexities of teen body image, spotlighting the struggle between actual weight and perceived weight. That's now in motion.
Adolescence is a life course stage where physical appearance starts to take on whole new dimensions because you're the way that physical appearance plays into your social life and maintaining friendships and developing dating relationships is largely dependent on physical appearance. And there were some theoretical perspectives on mental health and physical health that we started to draw from that suggested that it might not all be about what kids weigh, that might also be about what they think they weigh or how they perceive what they weigh. And so this study of the consequences of weight for children's mental health turned into a study of the consequences of weight and weight perceptions and that intersection for kids' mental health.
We approached the study thinking, how can we combine this weight literature and this weight perceptions literature in a way that makes sense? And so to do that, we started looking at the intersection of weight and weight perceptions and started looking at, okay, we need to think about, it's not just that perceptions matter and weight doesn't. It's that we need to look at people's perceptions relative to their actual weight, how they're viewing themselves, whether or not they're viewing themselves in a particularly negative or maybe even inaccurate fashion, like these kids who are underweight or normal weight who think they're morbidly obese. So we wanted to sort of parse that out. And what we found, actually, it didn't necessarily turn the other literature on its head, but it definitely questioned a lot of our past ideas about how teen weight and how teens think about their weight is related to mental health.
This national representation sample of teens was examined through quantitative analysis, focusing on how weight and weight perception influence mental health. The model also took into consideration race, family structure, and socioeconomic background.
What we did is we decided that we should look at the way that weight and weight perceptions mattered for depressive symptoms separately for girls and boys. So when we looked at normal weight girls who thought that their weight was okay, thought that they were heavy, or thought that they were too light, and then we looked at overweight girls who knew they were overweight or thought that they were lighter than they were, and underweight girls who knew they were underweight or thought that they were heavier than they were. The girls who were normal weight but who thought they were overweight or underweight were more likely to be depressed.
The findings show that it's not just weight that influences potential depression, but also health congruency, actual weight and body image versus the teen's self-imposed judgments of weight and body image.
And it's not the obese girls who had the biggest problem. It was actually the normal weight girls whose weight perceptions didn't match what their weight classification suggested they really were. And in fact, those girls were more likely to be depressed than the overweight girls who knew they were overweight.
Girls are really held to this cultural ideal of fitness. On the flip side, for boys, what they're expected to have, they're expected to be bigger, bulkier, more muscular. Think about the popular sort of athletic boy. So what we decided to do was, let's look at these underweight boys. And sure enough, what we found is that underweight boys suffer from higher levels of emotional distress than any other boys. In fact, underweight boys actually tend to be more distressed than girls on average, which is really surprising in the mental health literature because all of the mental health literature shows that girls usually suffer on average higher levels of distress and depressive symptoms than boys. So for a group of boys to actually exhibit symptoms that were on par with or higher than their female counterparts was actually pretty surprising.
There's so much emphasis in the country, rightly so, on the obesity epidemic and all the problems it causes kids. And that's absolutely the case. But I don't think we can discount the fact that kids that are normal weight understand their weight classification. I think sometimes some of this ramping up about being too heavy can affect kids that aren't too heavy.
If we're going to talk about weight and talk about mental health in adolescence, then we also need to consider groups you don't normally think about. So don't just have your focus groups with obese girls, or don't just focus all of your policy initiatives or your programs in schools at overweight and obese girls. Focus it to everybody.
For In Motion, I'm Kurt Parker.